Over the last few months, there's been quite a few requests to cover characters from certain shows, but none more than Black Mirror. Being the fan of the show that I am, it's an easy choice to make. Initially, I wanted to wait until the new season was upon us before starting, but I thought about the fact that there are so many episodes, and it is an anthology, so it might be better to start sooner than later. So here we are. I've chosen to start with one of my favorites, San Junipero, because I think it is an excellent example of what a good Black Mirror story does so well, and that's present us with a what-if scenario based on some relevant or possible future technology, and asks us to reflect on the difficult questions like, what would we do with this new tech, and what are some of the ways it could go horribly wrong? Every new technology solves one problem while creating potential new ones. Examining this is what makes sci-fi so interesting. So let's begin. But first, you know what comes next. If you're new around here, it's no surprise. I am obligated to warn you that the following video will be full of details about the episode, and this will no doubt spoil everything for you if you have not watched it yet. Consider yourself warned. If you like what I do and you want to help support my work, consider becoming a patron. Link is in the description. Also, I want to give a shout out and a warm welcome to Rendell, Heather Holt, and Benjamin for joining my Patreon. Thank you so much for your support. Look for your names in the credits. Self-promotion complete. Now let's dive. San Junipero is a well-written piece that manages to tell a deep and complex story about Yorkie and Kelly, two people in a hypothetical situation that provokes a lot of interesting questions. If you've seen the episode, you know the twist. Okay, there's a bunch of twists. But there's one big twist. The revelation that the world they exist in is not real, but an online simulation. Let's begin with Yorkie, who we find stepping into San Junipero for the first time. The street is teeming with nightlife, and Heaven is a Place on Earth is playing in the background. Right away, we are told through her body language that she is out of place and unsure of herself. Yorkie is the quintessential fish out of water, and it's clear that she's in a place she's not too familiar with. She's looking for something. Or someone. It's when she steps into the nightclub tucked away in this narrow street that we see just how much she stands out when compared to the club goers dancing to 80s music in the background. But let's step back a bit. Let's talk about Kelly. Yorkie spots Kelly, and it's obvious she is intrigued straight away, and this is what draws her into the club in the first place. The first time we see her, she is doing her best to let some guy down easy. She's apparently had what she deems a fling, but he doesn't see it that way, and he's pretty much begging her to take things further. We're introduced to Kelly as a party girl who is not looking for any attachments. She simply wants to enjoy herself and her time in town. The stage is set. Now, with this established, the story progresses forward as these two women's worlds collide, completely by accident, as it would seem. Kelly finds Yorkie sitting alone, sipping on a Coke, when she is once again approached by that same dude we saw chasing her outside the bar. She uses Yorkie as an excuse to get him to leave her alone for a bit, to get to talking, and we are immediately presented with two very different personalities. Kelly, the veteran, experienced, outgoing, and charming, while Yorkie is the opposite in every way. With a little arm twisting, Kelly convinces Yorkie to have a rum and Coke despite her initial protests. There's a conversation about Yorkie's glasses, so Kelly suspects that her glasses are necessary, and she asks the question, to which Yorkie of course tells her that the lenses do nothing and she's just used to wearing them. She then tells Yorkie that she likes the glasses because they are authentically a part of who she is. And I remember on the first time watching this, thinking it was strange that the writers chose to make a big deal out of this. Turns out it is a big deal, but we'll talk about that later. So the writers have clued us in, because these two lines sum up the entire point of the journey Yorkie is about to experience and what her character is about. She wants to be herself for the first time. Soon after this, Kelly pulls Yorkie out on the dance floor, and that's when we see it. Yorkie is smitten with Kelly as she watches her dance to the music without a care. The scene works so well because the atmosphere it creates around Yorkie is a great analog for how she feels about herself in relation to the world. Her inclinations and the fear of social judgment are pushed to the forefront. Yorkie feels like the whole room is looking at her, a reaction we tend to have when we think we're doing something wrong or inappropriate. And Yorkie certainly feels that what she's experiencing is just that. She feels shame. Yorkie runs away from the situation and Kelly follows, curious as to why she left. The two talk more intimately about themselves. Kelly does whatever feels right and lives in the moment. She doesn't worry about what comes next. Yorkie, who seems to be really into Kelly, struggles not only with her inner conflicts about who she is and what she wants, and she is very much worried about what comes next. Kelly's seemingly carefree ease about life confuses Yorkie, but it also seems to make her envious of her. When Yorkie tells her that she ran out of the club because she feels like everyone was looking, Kelly says,
Okay, 1, folks are way less uptight than they used to be, and 2, this is a party town, no one's judging.
Which is interesting to note on the second watch through. Yorkie has been an invalid since the age of 21 due to a horrific car accident, and she spent roughly 40 years of her life this way. Yorkie's been essentially frozen in time. so to speak. In coming to San Junipero today, she's operating under the assumption that people are still as intolerant as they were 40 years ago. Not to say that everything's rosy now, far from it, but it's certainly different today. As the conversation heats up, Kelly, being the more open and forward person, makes the first move, and Yorkie immediately freaks out, making up an excuse that implies that she's with someone and runs away again. She's not ready to do what it means to be yourself. I appreciate the way this character is written, specifically because she struggles so much with being honest with herself and then making the choices that are in line with what that means. I'm a straight male, and I'll never know what it's like to be closeted in that regard. But let's be honest, we've all been closeted in other ways. We've all hidden parts of ourselves or denied our real expressions of self out of fear for what other people might think. It's human, so it's not hard to empathize with what Yorkie is experiencing at all. Another week goes by, and we get a montage of Yorkie trying out different outfits, another metaphor for her trying to discover herself. After trying on some iconic 80s looks, she settles on what basically looks like a slightly more cleaned up version of her original look. She's out again, and we assume it's to find you-know-who. Yorkie finds Kelly at the same spot as before, but this time she's with the guy she just met, and she seems barely interested in him. I got the sense that Kelly knew what Yorkie was there for, but wanted her to make that move first, especially after what happened the first time they were together. Kelly visits the restroom to give Yorkie another chance at shooting her shot. Yorkie finally breaks down and spells it out. She has no idea what she's doing or even how to begin. Hearing this honest plea pushes Kelly to basically take her by the hand and show her. The two go to Kelly's, and in the Afterglow, Yorkie finally tells Kelly that she's never been in a romantic relationship of any kind, nor has she ever been intimate with anyone. Kelly reveals that she was married to a guy and that she was truly in love with him, but as she puts it, he chose not to stick around. Now, on the first viewing, this gives us the impression that he left her, as in he abandoned the relationship. But of course, it's not that simple. The way he left her was a little more complicated. Kelly is terminally ill and chose to come to San Junipero to live out the remaining months of her life, but she's not planning on passing over or being uploaded into San Junipero after she dies. Her husband apparently turned this option down when he died a couple years prior, choosing to forego passing over and end his time here naturally. The couple had a daughter that died prematurely and did not have the option to pass over. Kelly's husband felt it would be unfair to continue on, knowing that he'd never see his daughter again. That had to be tough for Kelly, and it explains why she's so determined to live it up without any emotional attachments. I can kind of imagine how that might feel. Imagine spending your whole life with someone, knowing you have a few years left together. You are presented with the opportunity to extend your life indefinitely, but your partner chooses to forego it because they just don't believe in it for some reason. I bet you got to this part of the story and you thought, wow, such happiness, so wonder. Everything is coming up roses. It's Black Mirror, snap out of it. After Yorkie has what seems like the perfect night with Kelly, another week rolls around and she expects to find Kelly again and pick up where things left off. Things don't exactly work out that way, and we really should not be surprised because Kelly told us who she was from the get-go. Kelly knows she doesn't have much time left in the real world, and she has no intention of sticking around in San Junipero. She's going, and when she's gone for good. Kelly ends up ghosting Yorkie, who spends the entire night looking all over town to find out where she is. When she finally does find her, she's with this guy. Remember him? Anyway, the two finally have it out again. This time, Kelly explains what's going on with her, and things start to get very complicated. Eventually, Kelly goes to see Yorkie in the real world. She finds that Yorkie spends her days in a hospice bed, connected to machines to keep her alive. She's unresponsive, but able to hear when spoken to. Kelly meets Nurse Greg, the man that she is marrying so that she can have rights to pass over, which she's doing because her family would not allow it. This is where Kelly gets the idea that she'll marry Yorkie herself as a gesture of kindness. The two tie the knot, and soon after, Yorkie tries to persuade Kelly to pass over too. And boy, does it take some convincing, because Kelly is adamant about not passing over and following the pattern left behind by her husband. That said, she realizes that she is standing before an opportunity to find love again, that her husband probably want her to be happy, with the prospect of having the power to decide just how long she wants this love to last. I was really waiting for the hammer to drop here. I mean, it's Black Mirror. There are no happy endings, usually, but no, this is one of the rare occasions where we do get to see a happy ending for our characters, depending on what you believe happened in the end. Kelly makes the decision to leave her earthly body and enter San Junipero to be with Yorkie indefinitely. Yorkie, for the first time, learns what she's been missing out on for her entire life, the feeling of being free to be herself. This ironically achieved by dying. Cue the music, Belinda Carlisle. Roll credits. But wait, we're not done here. We haven't talked theories yet, and you know you want to. One of the most obvious questions I had after watching the episode was, Did they really transfer to San Junipero? Or did they die, but essentially had copies of themselves uploaded into that online simulation? Were they just cookies? Black Mirror fans, you know what I'm talking about. Copies that look and act just like them, but are still just replicas at the end of the day? This question can get surprisingly deep and into the philosophical. Because you have to start with, what is consciousness and how does it fundamentally work in reality? Is consciousness even a physical phenomenon to begin with? So these are debatable ideas, and the truth is we don't know if this kind of thing is actually possible in reality, but we do know that the head writer, Charlie Brooker, intended for the ending to be just as it appears. Kelly and Yorkie do have that happily ever after, but not without the foreseeable snag, the idea forever, which is not an easy thing to contemplate, much less to agree to with someone. But we're gonna have to trust that these two can figure that out for themselves. This scene was a bit puzzling to me, the whole car crash scene. At first I took it as, oh, she's just mad, and so she decided to crash into barrier knowing that she's not gonna get hurt. But the more I thought about it, I felt like that's too simple, it's not enough. I mean, I get it. When emotions are peaked, people can do some really irrational things. Crashing a car on purpose is not off the menu, but this didn't make sense in Kelly's case when I really thought about it. Sure, she was upset by the recent argument she'd had with Yorkie. Crashing her Jeep seemed like a reach. After doing some digging, I'm of the mind that she crashed her Jeep because she wanted to understand what happened to Yorkie. We know that Yorkie crashed her car after speeding off from her parents' house because of an argument they had when she came out to them. And this is how she ended up in the state that she was in. In a way, she's connecting with her by allowing herself to see what it is like. The ultimate empathic act. Further evidence of her feelings for Yorkie and just how real they are. The writers topped off the scene by having Yorkie help her up after she rolled out onto the beach. Very cool scene when you think about it. Okay, we gotta talk about the glasses, because they do carry some meaning. It turns out those glasses make for a very important symbol. Everything Yorkie is before San Junipero is represented by her wearing the glasses. We see her wearing them at the start. When she's questioned about why she wears them, she admits that they are not functional. She's just used to wearing them. So essentially, they're like a security blanket. Think Linus and his blanket from Peanuts. Going back to the outfit montage, we see her take them off when she tries out those other looks, but ends up putting them back on again before going out. The message is that she has not changed yet. She still needs these glasses to feel safe because they act like a shield for her. In this scene at the beach, she takes them off and drops them in the sand, but she's completed the transformation into her true self. She no longer needs to feel protected. Now I know there's one thing we could talk about, that's TCKR Systems, the company that apparently houses San Junipero and a few other places where people get uploaded. But we're going to talk about that in another episode where I talk about all of the connections between the different stories within the Black Mirror universe. But I'd rather do that after we've gotten some stories under our belt first. So look forward to that one in the future. Once again, thank you to all my patrons. Thanks for sticking around. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, you know what to do. And until next time, peace.